It is Sunday evening, which means it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. We got episode 42 coming your way. We're going to hang out for a few minutes before we get started, but we're going to record this show and much more starting right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. We are back in the saddle after a week off, and episode 42, Austin is here. We are ready to roll. Welcome back, sir.
Ready to roll. Thank you very much. Hope you had a happy Independence Day. Good to be back after a couple weeks. And I have not seen your finalized setup here, so it's looking really good out there with Cam Newton right to over your right shoulder. And
right there.
I mean, this looks good. Are we happy with this final completion?
For the most part. It's not what I had traditionally envisioned, but I had to balance functionality with look. And so you will those who've been watching live shows, the Glomeratas right here, they fell at one point, not during a show, thankfully. I didn't have a moment like you. But that has already changed once. So there's going to be a lot of things that probably change over time. But this is what you're mainly going to be seeing when you watch this show, any of the other shows out there. So, yes, so far, so good. So if you see anything, Austin or viewers, that you don't like, let me know, and we'll change it.
I like it. I've been at the Mission Thrift Store in Auburn recently, and there's some good items in there that, even though they're a thrift store, are a little pricey, but I'm like, man, that would make my Auburn Experience backdrop pretty nice. But
one of the good things, and there are very few good things about not living in Auburn, is I don't have the opportunity to go through those thrift stores. Clint Richardson will tell you about some of the things that he's found, like formally official Auburn gear. Like they change obviously styles and all that kind of stuff. He's pulled out some things before that he's found at thrift stores. I'm like, how did you even come across this?
So. Yeah. I mean, I've been in that specific one, and like it's like got their names just right inside the like former coaches, former analysts, all that thing. I'm like,
there you go.
It's nice, but it'll rack up a bill pretty quick.
Yeah, listen, it can, but it's good stuff too. So you all now know to go look at all the thrift stores. That would be one of we keep talking about all these topics for banking, and we've had a lot to talk about this summer. But there's going to be times where we need something fun to talk about. We'll maybe mention the best thrift stores.
That's what I was going to say. I think we did what we did. That was our Christmas gift, right? Best Auburn Christmas gift we've gotten, or something like that. Thrift store would be a good one.
It would be. So we'll throw that in there. We'd love to hear from some of you guys out there that are watching. We're going to start recording here in about 2 or 3 minutes. But if you've got initial questions or commentary you'd like to make, please do so. I'll be staying after the show. We record a 30-minute show, roughly 3 10-minute segments. Tonight, we're going to be discussing, obviously, Auburn Potpourri, a lot of little minor topics that we've missed throughout the last 2 weeks. And then we're going to talk about an Auburn sellout of season tickets, and then finally complete our 2022-23 athletic calendar year look back with the spring sports. And we will basically be uncharted waters at that point, Austin. Like we've done everything we can do for the past year. And so now it becomes creativity for you and me.
Which is pretty good for us to get to. I guess next week will be July 16th. For us to get to July 16th and just be hitting uncharted territory is pretty good. That doesn't leave us with a whole lot of time to mess stuff up.
Yeah. I'm interested by this comment from Rise Live, the new YouTube chat thingy. What new YouTube chat thingy?
Do share.
Yes, because I monitor over here on the separate monitor, just the stream, make sure everything's going okay. And I do not see what's. So you'll have to expound upon that, Rise Life. What's new about this? I'll be honest, and this kind of goes to your other comment. Is anybody sunburnt? I was on vacation this week. I am not overly sunburnt. Austin and I talked about that a little bit, but there's a few spots on me that could probably have used a little less sun. So, but yes, E2C tan. I don't know.
That's what you should have done. You should have gotten sunscreen everywhere.
Right here on the forehead.
E2C, yeah.
E2C. Miss Crotchfield, so good to see you. Thanks for checking in all the way from New Jersey. That is commitment. And of course, speaking of commitment, Minnesota, Brian's here. Listen, we've got Alabama, Minnesota, New Jersey checking in here. Who else? I think we got two from Alabama right now. And going back to he's going back to Indian. There you go. So a lot of good, fine folks checking in. So as we said, stick around after the show so you can hang out with me a little bit. We'll just talk about anything, shoot the breeze a little bit, but we're ready to get started with the show here. 3 segments coming your way. Episode 42. Austin, are you looking at something? What are you looking at there? You got me scared.
No, I was looking at I was trying to find the emojis that Rise Life is talking about on YouTube, but
by the donation, you can spam emojis like TikTok. Oh, interesting.
I don't really know.
We'll find out about it later. I'll look into it. I've been checked out a little bit. So anything, a whole nother social media thing popped up while I was on vacation, which I was scrambling to adjust to. So we'll talk about that. Potpourri a little bit too. Are you ready, Austin?
I'm ready.
And here we go in 3, 2, 1. David Housel described it best. We are living the Auburn experience, the whole of the Auburn experience. So many things fall within that: places, people, concepts. But at its heart, at its core, it's all about our sports, all about the culture, and all about the Auburn family. And we are back on episode 42 to discuss that Auburn experience. Back with me again as your host, Kyle Loomis, the co-host extraordinaire, the master of all things, coordinating episode numbers with former players, even if they're very hard to find. Scott, back in the saddle. What's up, buddy?
What's up? And yes, no matter how hard it is, I strive week after week to make it for you, our listeners, an associated number with our podcast episode. 42 is not easy, Kyle. 42 is not easy at all, especially when you don't have as much time to research as you think you
Can
might.
I pull the curtain back a little bit?
Sure.
Listen, so partially it's a little bit all encompassing people. My fault too, because this technically would have been 43. Because last week we thought we were going to be able to do 42. Our schedules didn't work out. So Austin's mind had already moved on to 43. And I think we all know what he was. I can only imagine the speech that you have prepared, but your homework's done for next week.
Correct. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't a little bit relieved I wouldn't have to go through 42 because it was knowing a little bit difficult. Anyway. 42 is our episode 42 is going to be dedicated to, we do have a couple individuals. We have Jacob von Eschenbach, a former walk-on linebacker, current 42 on the Auburn football team, Kyle Vaccarella, who's a long snapper.
That's a good one.
All these guys are kind of unsung heroes, and 42 in the Auburn world, we could go outside and we could talk about Jackie Robinson, but we'll go with 42 in the Auburn world as kind of the unsung heroes. And so episode 42 is dedicated to all our unsung heroes out there. That's the best we're getting this week.
And I'd like to also put a call to action to listeners and viewers out there, depending on how you're consuming this content this week. If you can remember or find a 42 that you're just screaming at us that how did you forget this? I literally feel like there's one out there that I should know, and I'm blanking on it too. So feel free. We'll have our contact information at the end of the show. Obviously at E2C Network anywhere, and you can let us know what we should have talked about in episode 42.
Please.
But numbers aside, let's, with the last part of this segment, talk about a little Auburn Potpourri. We're not going to hit everything since we were off last week. We're going to try to hit some of the high points that happened. I already know this is on top of people's minds. We got 2 commitments for football. For those of you waiting on the videos on the YouTube channel, those are coming. I was on vacation. Please forgive me. D'Angelo Barber, a linebacker, and Malik Blockton, a defensive lineman, more specifically, most likely a defensive tackle. So the defensive side of the ball was much added to this week, and I imagine that made everybody very happy. Any thoughts on those guys?
No, absolutely. 2 in-state guys, and that's always big. When these guys aren't the 5-star guys, no one's claiming that. Doesn't mean they couldn't get there, with strong seasons upcoming. But it's in-state guys that you don't want going off to other places. I think D'Angelo Barber was looking heavily at Arkansas. Malik Blockton was looking heavily at Texas. Those are guys, if you want them, if you value them the way this Auburn staff seems to rate them on their own board, which is really the only board anybody should care about, then we are happy they're staying in state and coming to Auburn. And you always like the in-state guys to feel a little more pride being on Auburn or Alabama. In this case, obviously, we're thankful they're at Auburn. And so two good prospects for this defense that Ron Roberts is trying to build up. And we'll see them hopefully make an impact at Auburn here in a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm excited to finally sit down and get all my research in order for those videos, because as much as I enjoy doing those commitment videos just for the sake of, I know it's content that everybody wants, I enjoy learning about these guys in the background and kind of discussing what might they bring to the table. So we'll be having those come up, more discussion about those coming up here at E2C Network in a variety of ways. More Auburn potpourri for you to talk about. I can't go much further without discussing this. The interesting nature of this week for me, I cannot go on vacation without craziness happening. It was just a lot more than I was anticipating. I knew a commitment was coming this week. I didn't expect two, but then there was this whole thing of Threads becoming a reality, a new competitor to Twitter. And what's worse than Auburn Twitter, Auburn Twitter 2.0 deciding to invade. When I say worse, I say that in a loving fashion. But we saw not a complete migration, but a major migration to use both of those now, Auburn Twitter, Auburn Threads, and cross posting and share. I'm just confused now, Austin. How do we keep track of this?
We can't when we won't. And but it was, the whole Threads experience seems to be an interesting one to start. I think there's a lot of things we got to figure out, us as the consumer, them as the developer. And so it'll be interesting. It's another place for the Auburn family to get crazy and get wild. And there's no doubt that will happen. So we'll see how the Auburn experience transcends onto Threads. But it's one everybody should be looking out for. That's for sure.
I don't know that Mark Zuckerberg was ready for Auburn Twitter to invade Threads the way they did. Look, I'm not naive to not think that there's crazy fan bases, even outside of sports, that all invaded too and just mess things up, But Auburn Twitter is a thing.
Like Disney people.
I mean, really, these weird Disney people that, do other things for content about, I don't know who those people are. Anyway, yes, that was interesting to follow, interesting to have to scramble to create an account for myself, for E2C. So we are on Threads at E2C Network. Please come and find us and hang out with us there too. You'll see similar content to Twitter, but we'll try to mix it up a little bit,
I did like that, and I'm sure you did too, as the mastermind behind the entire E2C network. I rushed over there, not knowing if I would ever get on Threads or not, to make sure I got my handle Austin G. Scott. I'm sure you were wondering, I got to get E2C network before some rando gets it, that would have ulterior motives. Thankfully, it's connected through Instagram, so you already had it, and I already had mine. But that was my very first thought, is like, oh my gosh, that's another thing I gotta make sure I have my handle for. But you, more importantly, I mean, you're trying to make sure the business stays cohesive.
Yeah. Don't remind me. It was entertaining. I had something on the beach to entertain me when I was not in the water and getting burned. Speaking of which, that's the next big thing. If I haven't mentioned, I went on vacation. But I always like to talk about when we do things that can be maybe unconventional in the Auburn experience, talk about them. Like if we go somewhere and have a War Eagle moment and things like that. I always think that we have some of the best experiences down at the beach, because especially if you go, I went to Gulf Shores / Orange Beach. It's Alabama. It's still the state of Alabama. And, obviously a lot of our fan base comes down that way, and others too. I will say I was slightly underwhelmed with the representation for Auburn at the beach / surrounding areas. Now, again, I'm on vacation, so I'm kind of trying to check out a little bit too, but I feel like I noticed it a lot more. The one thing I do remember was at this place called I'm gonna give them a shout out. The Gulf, actually, it's like a open air dining area down right on the bridge going to Perdido,
Mm,
that area.
yep.
Saw a Tumors lemonade shirt, and I just could not
There
get the
you
guy's attention to say that's one of the best t-shirts Auburn has around. So,
go.
it's the one with Aubie smiling with the
Oh
lemon
yeah.
in his mouth. So I was like, oh man, that's my people right there. I don't remember seeing an Auburn tent at
Oh
all on the
wow.
beach. I'm sure there were a few t-shirts here and there, but outside of that, it's a little underwhelming. I mean, what's going on? Are we just not going to the beach anymore? I mean,
That's pretty surprising. Yeah, I think we've talked before. I don't remember how much or what we were really talking about in relation to, but how we've talked before about, going out and seeing different other fan bases.
yeah.
That's something my brother and I have been doing for years when we go on vacation is keep a list of all the fan bases we see. We usually collect a lot at the beach on walks. So you didn't see a tent on a walk on the beach at all, an Auburn tent at all whatsoever.
I, that's why I kind of said I'm sure there's
Sure.
some I passed, but to me, we are so bold with representing ourselves that it's
Yeah.
hard to miss, and it's hard to miss orange on white sand beaches in an emerald
Yep.
coast. Uh, everybody. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. I think feel like red blends in more. LSU sticks out too,
Yeah.
gold and purple. Like those are probably the three fan bases you see the most in that area. So I don't know. I just kind of expected more, and I expected to be posting more about things I'm seeing there. And I was like, you know what? Outside of the Tumors lemonade guy, that was like the most interesting thing I saw, or exchange, or things like
That's
that.
surprising. That is surprising. I'm a little bit bamboozled.
I know. Well, hopefully next year when I make my annual trek down there, we will have
Yeah.
better experiences. But at least I saw something Auburn down in the Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area. One thing I do want to acknowledge before we move on to our first major segment, as of this moment, the MLB draft is ongoing. We will be monitoring that. We probably will discuss that next week, depending on how big a MLB draft we have this year. There's some good prospects in there for Auburn, some very prominent ones. So we will watch fervently and talk about that on a next episode. But for now, let's talk about this is episode 42. Let's talk about segment number 1 in our big segments. And we're going to talk about sellouts. Auburn tickets selling out. Not just Auburn tickets. Auburn season tickets are now officially sold out for the 2023 season. Let me remind you folks, this is after 2 years of abysmalness, 2 coaching transitions, and not much to go off of other than recruiting in the Hugh Freeze era. Because let's be honest, that A-Day, not a lot out of their control, but it was pretty boring. Season tickets sold out. More details to discuss there in that. But Austin, talk to me about this. How is this possible? Are we just that eager to get back to something new in Auburn football?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, and you have to give the hats off and certainly credit to the coaching staff for having such a, vibrant off season with recruiting, with just being out in the community, stirring up a lot of energy and excitement. And then I think you have to give credit to John Cohen and the staff he's put together of really making ticket sales a big priority. And the Auburn families responded, and I think that's fantastic. I was super interested, and my wife Emily and I were talking about this. How is this just now happening? How is this the record that is just now happening? And thankfully, I did find an answer, and someone else much smarter than me. I think it was Justin Hoganson at On3 posted a free article you can check out.
Talking about.
And Auburn has sold out their season tickets before. It's just that more have become available, which makes a lot of sense. In the past, there's been the amount of season. You take the entire amount of seats in the stadium, right?
Right.
And you take out the student section, minus the student section number, which is about 18,000, I think, roughly. You minus, and then you subtract the largest possible visitor allotment. So in the odd years, like this year with Alabama and Georgia, those are the biggest visitor allotments Auburn gives out to those schools for them to sell on their own. In the past, that's been roughly about 12,000 tickets, which is a lot. I did not realize it was that many over the years because of just People have nicer TVs. People have a better experience at home. So and so people aren't going to away games as much. That number has come down to about 8,000, give or take. And so because of that, you have 4,000 more tickets that you can sell as season tickets
Right.
to Auburn family members, which is fantastic. We'd rather have them in those seats anyway. And so that's how they've been able to sell more season tickets. So the number of tickets minus, I guess, the biggest allotment this year, which you could think about as 8,000, then minus the student section of 18,000, is the new record of season ticket holders that Auburn has now sold, which makes more sense, but is still nonetheless a record and super exciting and I don't want to say shocking, but it's kind of shocking given the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What is going into this new era?
No, I think shocking is fine to say because it's two levels of shock that you brought out.
Yeah.
The fact that it's happening in the context of what's been going on of late, but also hasn't Auburn done this before? And I found myself, since I've become an Auburn content creator, focusing a lot on the way things are worded, phrased, graphically expressed, to read between the lines and read what's not being read, sometimes to a fault. You and I have had some conversations where I'm like, is this happening? Am I interpreting this right? But like when they started promoting this, I was like, why are we making, I feel like we've sold this out before. Like, has this not and yes, as you've expressed, it has happened, but as things are adjusted, changed, times have changed, people's desires to be in a stadium, home, visitor, otherwise change. Obviously, that can affect records and things like that. But when you combine all that together, this is absolutely incredible. I mean, this shouldn't be happening right now. Auburn season tickets, 500,000. Am I saying that wrong?
Yeah, no, I'm picturing the number in my head. I got you.
63.5. Why am I blanking on how
I would say 63,500.
Thank you.
Tickets have been sold. Yes, sir.
I've been on vacation. Please forgive
that's what
me.
We'll put it at.
Those tickets are now sold. I am proud to say that
this is what we all want to know. This is what we all want to know. Did Kyle make it?
For the first time, am a season ticket holder to Auburn football. Yes.
Boom.
That wallet is now very light. But I will be. I say I have a ticket to every game. I expect to be there, rain or shine or other circumstances. But most of you know me and know what I do here. I'll be on campus regardless. But I'm excited to be here for a year where you couldn't ask for maybe a better setup to the Hugh Freeze era and to have season tickets be sold out. You've got Georgia, you've got Alabama. That's right. Last time annually you will host Mississippi, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Not Arkansas. I get those a little bit mixed up. LSU will be part of not the home schedule, but this is even just the home part of it has got so much to look forward to this year. And it's kind of odd because outside of Alabama and Georgia, you're like, well, it's really hit or miss if Ole Miss or Mississippi State are going to be worthwhile games because you don't know what they're going to be like. But this year, with the history of the last time, that makes it a hot ticket. So the reason I purchased the tickets this year is because I realized my normal strategy of finding them the week of or maybe 2 weeks before maybe a little bit more difficult and a little bit more pricey this year. You think that was a smart decision?
I think you were smart to go ahead and jump on in and you're one that has now donated to the Almighty Tigers Unlimited Foundation. So congratulations, Kyle, on your wallet becoming much more less of a presence in your pocket.
Not that it was before, let's be honest. I mean, I am doing from a broadcast studio in a spare room in my house, but that if you ever needed to know how Kyle is doing financially, just know that fact. One day, I see some of these other content creators, Auburn and not out there with their big studios now, and I'm like, that's when you'll know that things are going well.
That's right.
We're far from that point, but that'd be the goal one day. I have many dreams and ideas about what the studio will look like, where would it be located in Auburn and all that stuff, but
the Heyday Market. We're still open. Heyday Market. Just let us know.
I think part of the problem is we've got to actually broach the topic with them and have
Yeah.
a day that we can actually meet up together there. So we'll
Yeah.
work on it. There's many things that I'm talking about and discussing, but that's not what we're talking about in this. We're talking about
No.
season tickets being sold out. Kudos to the staff. Rhett Hobart is one that I would give a shout out. I know that's very much in his purview, and he has a team of people that have been here promoting this without that I'm blanking on all their names. That's just one that's right at the top right there. Just an incredible job pushing this and making people feel like this is something that you need to be on board with this year. And not just for the sake of selling tickets. I mean, that's their job ultimately, is to get butts in the seat to have that experience. But this is an incredible feat, and Auburn fans should take pride in this. You're going to see people making fun, saying, oh, they're really desperate. Like, it's going to happen. Take pride in this, Auburn family. This is a big, big deal this year.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm proud, excited, a little worried about my wallet, but regardless, I'm going to be happy to be there and hopefully see you some this season, sir.
Oh, I think we're gonna be able to make it happen some this season. Hopefully get the boys there too. Man, I totally forgot. I meant to send you a picture that you could put up on our live stream here, and the other people on just listening to our episode would have to miss out. But we got the picture of the boys in each some Auburn gear this week, and it is quite cute, if I must say so myself. So we'll have to leave that. But talking about the season, there is a game that we're hoping the boys can go to, and we're hoping and praying that it's going to work out for that day as their first game, which we will definitely talk about if that comes to fruition.
What might that be? What game? Yeah, what game?
Well, it has to check a lot of boxes here. We have to get a lot of it can't be that hot, and it can't be.
So the first half of the season is done.
Correct. And it cannot be a game where I'm going to be terribly sad we're leaving after the first half of the first quarter. Okay. So
that's another quarter gone.
We're we're hoping that maybe that game before the Iron Bowl, the game before Thanksgiving is, if the weather aligns, could be a good one for the boys to experience Jordan Hare for the first time.
So if you, like me, are now a season ticket holder and you want to see overload of cuteness, come with us to maybe around that time, that game. Make sure you're there in your season ticket seats. And who knows, they might end up on the Jumbotron because they're so dang cute.
Oh, I mean, my dream. What is it? The Simba cam?
Yeah, there you go.
Emily and I both just holding it.
You got to do two.
I think it would. Oh, it'd be great.
I would pay for season tickets just for that. That does it for me.
I'm all in. We'll see if it happens. But, if it does, there's going to be 63,500 people that'll will definitely witness it. So for sure, at least that many.
Yep, it definitely will. It's going to be a fun time either way. Episode, I did it again. Topic number 2 tonight. They're big topics. Let's talk about finally our ongoing, I guess we'll call it a series at this point because it is 3-part topic of wrapping up the 2022-23 athletic calendar year. Previous episodes, we have done the fall. I believe we took a break and then did the winter, and then obviously took a kind of an unscheduled break last time. So it's kind of like a week gap in between in each of those. But if you're interested in hearing about the fall sports, the winter sports, check those out. Now, some of the ones that we talk about here kind of encompass the entire year. So just we know that going in, we're talking about the spring, but some of them aren't ultimately truly spring sports. We're just dividing it up best the way we can. We have a lot to get through tonight, so sit tight. A lot of diamond sports here are going to be discussed, but I want to mention one off the top, and we're not going to be able to go into a lot of detail on all these, but I at least want to talk about them and at least mention them. First off, right here, I want to talk about tennis and how they ended the year. Men's tennis had a pretty good year, did make it to the NCAA opening rounds, but fell to Cornell in those opening rounds. And then for the women's tennis team, they did make it into the NCAA tournament and went a lot farther, beating FIU, Miami, but ultimately losing to NC State in that NCAA tournament. So that is for tennis. We'll hopefully talk about them some more down the line. but we got to move on to some other things. You want to do baseball or softball first? What do you want to do, Austin? Take your
Let's
pick.
talk about softball. Let's talk about softball first.
The softball ladies, your final record for the ladies of the Diamond, 43-19. Conference record 15-9, with a pretty decent year. And the great thing that I love, not about just softball, but baseball too, is they kind of felt like they peaked both, or were peaking at the same time, maybe dipping a little bit. So it was kind of riding the wave together of all these different things. Some big moments. They did end up in the NCAA tournament at the Clemson Regional. We did talk a little bit about that, how frustrating it was to be there a little bit. But I say softball 2023, Austin, what comes to mind for you?
You know, like you mentioned, I think there was a peak that was super exciting, and it seemed like this team was gaining a lot of momentum. It's hard for me not to think about going to the Clemson Regional and not getting out of the Clemson Regional again, even though you get all the way to force that last game and just not being able to do it, which really stinks. And we talked about it at length about how then Clemson went on to play Oklahoma. We knew where that was going no matter what. But still, just, you know, this team is, since the hiring of Mickey Dean, this team struggled to get past the regional round. And I say that cautiously because Auburn softball was really, if we're being completely honest, an afterthought 10 years ago. Right. And it was, getting to the NCAA tournament was a pipe dream for a period there. Right. And so I think that it's cautious expectations to go even higher, but that's kind of what people expect. We've talked about we just talked about season tickets of football. There was a big season ticket jump with softball, a lot of interest during those Women's College World Series years. And so I think Auburn people are eager to get back there. The philosophy and the players that Coach Mickey Dean has brought in have been extremely successful. There's been some tough draws, but still, I think this program can get there. They just need to take that next step, and it didn't happen this year. And unfortunately, they lost some key pieces for next year, and have already kind of reloaded and tried to find new pieces for next season. But this program, I think a lot of Auburn people want it to take the next step.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of seeing if it comes sooner or later.
I think there's been some up and down trepidation, maybe with yes, Mickey Dean under leadership, and that's not my opinions on it necessarily, but I think if you're following on social media, you'll see some of those opinions being shared out there, and it's easy to question too when you see stars, Bree Ellis leaving, and some things with that. I would remind folks there's a lot of nuance to that conversation that is hard to really have on a social media platform, to be fair to both sides. So I hope people do remember that. But he just hired a brand new assistant coach. So it looks like we are going to be still heading in the same trajectory. And I would say, I know we're talking about last season, but this feels like it is the time this season to take the next step. And there's plenty of talent still left, plenty of talent coming in. And there were some big moments this year. Maddie Pinta had herself a year.
Yes,
if we forgot she was Maddie Pinta, she made it clear that she is Maddie Pinta, and she didn't forget about that.
That's
people who follow the softball season know what we're talking about there. I am still very proud of this softball team, despite maybe the frustrations of not getting past that initial round. Maybe, just once NCAA tournament, you could not send us to Clemson. That'd be great. It
would be lovely.
It's great. It was close by. Auburn fans travel well. It makes it super easy for us, and we did. But let's go somewhere else. For crying out loud. Let's go to Florida State. If you want to send us there, you did that in baseball a lot. So let's just go. Let's do it in softball for a few years now. Either way, we'll watch this season eagerly because I do feel like this is one of those years that is going to be needed to take the next step, but I think they're poised to do so. Let's talk about one of the other actual pairs of programs too that I want to mention, men's and women's golf, how they finished on the year. And I'll be honest with you, Austin, and listeners, viewers, that it's hard to kind of really capture the picture of how well some of these programs do in just a small snippet and with our time constraints. So I want to stress that too. men's golf did make it to the NCAA championship, and ultimately out of those 30 teams there finished 10th overall, but they were battling the entire time. And I want to add here, it's basically a given at this point that Auburn men's golf makes it to the national stage, to the NCAA championship, and not just the men, but the women, which was a kind of shocking because they only made it. They didn't make it out of the San Antonio regional. Usually we're talking about the women's team and the men's team these days, both making it into the championship round with that group play. But still very proud of their year. And I think we're still well positioned in both of those programs to do great things in the coming year, build off what we did this season. Let's talk about the other diamond sport, baseball, the one that captured the hearts and minds again. You and I have, this one feels like, how are we recapping? It's just like with softball, we just been talking about this in the most recent episodes. I say baseball to you, Austin. What comes to mind for 2023?
Oh, the win streak. The win streak that they were on to end the year, and the amount of SEC series wins that they were going on. How can you not think about the LSU weekend? How can you not think about, the countless guys who stepped up in big moments? You've got, Cole Foster and Bobby Barrels. I mean, guys that seniors that, and I'm blanking on Howell, Case and Howell, guys that just left their mark on the program, and went out in a big way. No, this team did not win the regional they hosted. Incredibly disappointing. But I think a lot of Auburn fans are going to remember the last month of that season, month and a half of the season, where Auburn got hot, came from the literal cellar of the SEC, and put themselves in a position to host, and where they were able to make some noise. And so super exciting. We talked about it so much. Another year that Butch Thompson does what he does, pulls guys in the right direction and gets them back into the postseason. I think a lot of Auburn people were you don't want to call it a disappointment, but it is in a sense, because that's the expectation Coach Butch Thompson has made for this team to be in Omaha. And because of the momentum, you hope they're going to carry this thing all the way into Omaha, and we'll see what happens. So it's disappointing they didn't get there. But that is the state of the program now. Like, that is what is expected even in the SEC. And so just, a really fun year with this team, and looking forward to next year. There was a lot of talent on this program. We mentioned on the MLB draft, that a lot of them will hear their names selected here in the next few days. That's super exciting. As we look into next year, there's also a lot of guys who are committed to Auburn that might not make it to Auburn because of the MLB draft. That should tell you the state of recruiting and the state of scouting these guys our coaching staff does. And yes, it will stink to lose them and say they will never set foot on Auburn's campus. There's been some great MLB players who were committed to Auburn and never made it there because they got drafted high. But you can't not go after those guys, right? Like, Butch Thompson sees that talent, and the unfortunate thing is professional scouts saw it too. So not unfortunate for the individual and his family, unfortunate for Auburn. Yes. But it was a super exciting year. Every year when Auburn baseball has this kind of year, we talked about this a little bit. It's the last big thing. Like, it's the last big sport that's going on, that a lot of Auburn people are focused on. And it just seems to be this rally to end the year that everybody's locked in on Auburn baseball. So it was no different this year.
The thing that I love about the baseball season is Auburn Family needed it this year, because underwhelming is an understatement for football. A little bit underwhelming for basketball at times too, for men's basketball, when we talk about the big three. And you see the expectations that weren't there for baseball on the grand stage, the national writers stage. Nobody's expecting them to do anything, questioning their pitching. Some of that seems to be true as the season gets started, but these bats just stay alive. And then when the pitching kind of starts getting itself figured out a little bit, and it all kind of comes together alongside great coaching, it's amazing what can happen. And we needed the end of that season just to make this year not just crap. Look, as we've trying to talk about throughout this whole series, there are great moments and great things happening all the time. And that's why we call this the Auburn Experience, because if you don't value the whole experience, then you're going to be one of those grumpy, hard to deal with people on social media all the time and on message boards. Like you're just going to be an awful person, frankly. But that's why the Auburn Experience is so great, is because of moments like baseball, where even when you're having these down moments, they're not expected to even give you any hope. They give you that hope and watch this team overcome expectations, overcome anything else that happened throughout the season. And I enjoyed everything about it. And I will say it again. If you question Butch Thompson at this point in his career, you do not know what you're talking about. The man knows how to put a team together and motivate them. And that is a fact.
This is the truth. And if you're not excited about Auburn baseball going forward, if you're still not excited about Butch Thompson being the leader of this team, or excited about the recruiting process or anything with Auburn baseball, Plainsman Park, people are excited in Auburn athletics about Plainsman Park because they're getting unique and one-of-a-kind experiences that are coming in Plainsman Park. We've hit on that last episode.
Right.
Auburn baseball is in an incredible spot, and they're going to continue to be in an incredible spot with the commitment that the university's put in, the fan excitement, and Butch Thompson at the top. So Auburn baseball, while ended on a disappointing note, it couldn't be more exciting moving forward.
It is a good time to be an Auburn Tiger, especially when it comes to baseball. To round out our segment, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our track and field team. We already talked about cross country, that portion of it for the fall. So if you're interested in that, go back and check that out. And I'll be honest with you, we're going to really cut this one short. A lot of great things happened this year. The biggest thing was a brand new head coach in Leroy Burrell. And wow, did he change the outlook of this program. And that is not a knock on Coach Ralph Spry. A lot of great things were happening under him even before his retirement, but it's like some fresh blood came in and kind of reignited what's been there for a long time. Some mainstays stayed for a fifth year, like Maddie Malone, who ended up being a silver medalist on the NCAA championship stage. And the outdoor portion, a lot of those similar things happened in the indoor portion as well. I want to just say this: if you are not paying attention to Auburn track and field, you are missing out on a major portion of the Auburn experience. So please check in this coming year, starting with cross country, all the way to indoor and outdoor. I promise you, you will not regret it. Some very big and exciting things happening there if you are an Auburn family member. That is it. That is the season review completed, Austin. We made it. You feeling good?
We made it. You know, it was unintentionally very smart of us to drag this out over 6 weeks to cover all the sports, because now we are only at the beginning of July and we only have to cover a little more time before we really hit topics that are more designed for us. So
yes,
everyone only has to bear with us for a couple more weeks of whatever we're going to come up with. But we did it. And what a year it was. What a year we have to look forward to.
Yeah, you remember that idea when I said we should do all that in one episode?
Oh, man, horrible idea.
Yeah, don't ever listen to me again. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even know why I'm in this chair. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into this episode 42 of the Auburn Experience. If you'd like to check in with me, you can find me at Kyle Loomis 24 on Twitter, and I guess on Threads now. That's fun to do. And obviously the E2C Network in all those different places. Where can they find you, sir?
Yes, Austin G. Scott, Instagram, Twitter, and as you said, now Threads. So come thread with me if you like.
Sounds so weird. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I got to get used to it at this point. Thank y'all for tuning in. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, and we are out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Austin is going to head out. I will stick around, address some of your comments during the show, any other questions and things that you guys would like for the next few minutes. But Austin, good to have you back and excited to kind of start heading towards the next season with you.
Yes. Thank you. I'm excited too. I also like this new feature on StreamYard. I don't think this is new, or I think this is new, where I can log in with my own YouTube and comment back.
Yeah, I noticed that during the show. It threw me off a little bit. As there's another Austin Scott I don't know about.
I really like that. I was paying attention to whatever you were saying at that moment. But Miss Crushfelt did say one of Auburn's commitments. I guess you don't call him a signee yet. Oh, well,
No,
maybe he is a sign. I don't know.
yeah, that's
Because
confusing.
you can probably pull out of if you just get drafted. But Colt Emerson, a infield prospect.
Yeah, Miss
was
Angela,
drafted.
tell us if you know that, if you're still watching, if you know if they're considered signed yet, or how that dynamic works.
To
If
Auburn.
yes, if you know about that. So we'd love to hear your
Yeah.
perspective on that.
But doesn't sound like Colt. He might not make it to the Plains.
Yeah, it's first round.
Hard to blame him. So
First round, you go where the money is.
absolutely, I would.
Me too. Trust me.
We'd have a studio.
Yeah, we'd have a studio. I'd be in Auburn. Anyway, I've lamented enough about those things. Thank you, Austin.
Anyway, all right. See you, War Eagle.
All right, War Eagle, man. All right, you guys hang around if you'd like to. We'll answer some questions, comments from the show. It's kind of like a mini Wednesday night show since we did start a little late. And by the way, I want to give you guys a heads up. I know it's probably a pattern that you're noticing that sometimes we get off to a later start on Sunday evenings. Our goal is to start at 9, but a lot of times, just given our personal schedules, that was the best possible time that we could say is the start time, but it sometimes may vary just by a few minutes or something. Just, I hope, Austin's got twins and things like that, and we're traveling and stuff like that. So just know that if you're sitting there wondering, hey, they said live at 9, we're doing our best to get there, but just want to say that at the get-go. So give me your comments and questions, and we'll hit some of the ones during the stream. I would love to first give you guys this part of the show that we always need to talk about, things to keep in mind. Our next scheduled live stream is our Auburn Family Night on the 12th, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss that. It is going to be a little bit of what we're doing here, just interacting, talking with you with call-ins. People can call into the show. Please be a subscriber if you're not. All you got to do is hit that subscribe bell. You'll be immediately entered into a subscriber giveaway as long as you're doing that and dropping a comment somewhere. The video is available in the description link if you need information on that. You could be a channel member for $1 a month here. You could also be a Booster Club member if you'd like to be a part of that. Some new things coming for that very soon. Both those start at $1 a month. All the links that you can do to help keep us on the air here are in the description. So please check those out. See if you're interested in, and we appreciate those of you that can do that. But the biggest thing you can do is to just be here and tell a friend to become part of the best little family within the Auburn family. So with those things done, let's see what you guys were talking about during the stream and anything else. Miss Crotchfelt says they still have to sign with the MLB after they go through everything, I believe. Okay. I don't know if that answers Austin's question, but hopefully he will see that on the back end there. It is going to be interesting to see who does and doesn't get drafted, prospects and players for Auburn that have eligibility left, I guess I shouldn't say that, people that have graduated, how they're going to fare in this draft. If it's a big enough topic, we will discuss it next week as a full segment, but depending on the depth of how the draft goes for Auburn, it may just be a potpourri segment. Unbeaten Lake. I'm almost more upset about losing Coleman to A&M than losing Jalen Green to the G League. All right, context for those of you that don't know what he's talking about. So Cam Coleman was a very highly rated wide receiver. A lot of people, and I including, thought he was at one point very close to committing to Auburn. I think I even said this in the last live stream too, that when people asked me about Cam Coleman, it's like, why, what's going on with that? I mean, I didn't know anything, but to me, it felt a lot like something was not right. Like, you're coming to Auburn a lot. You're coming with other players. Why aren't you committed? Or it feels like you are sending the signals of a commit. Why is that not happening? So all that to be said, it did not shock me in the least when something strange happened with it. So what he's referencing is Jalen Green, who was a basketball prospect for Bruce Pearl, who may have also helped propel this team to a championship. Went to the G League, the minor leagues essentially for NBA, and he's openly said he would have come to Auburn. how incredible that might have been. What else did you guys talk about during the stream? Keep your comments and questions coming, though. E2C needs a statue. E2C needs a real studio before we need a statue. So let's start there. Let's build this thing up, and then we can talk about statues. You were a season ticket holder before me, but don't be surprised. I'm a to a fault frugal person, and not to say I was like scheming the system or anything like that, but it's very easy to know people who have an extra ticket or will let you buy their ticket, and that's usually how I got into the games, since I'm not considered an official media member. I get to attend some events, but spots are very limited to be credentialed for that. So I have to get into the games by other means. So this year I did not take the chance. Think it's going to be hard and pricey to get into some of these games. So I will be at the Iron Bowl. I will be at the Georgia game. I will all the games, all 7 of them. My wallet is 7 times lighter, but I will love it when I get there. Let's see here. Rise Live said earlier, I saw a post that said Cam Newton wished, I guess you're saying, he got recruited by Oregon because of their uniforms, and I don't know what to think about that. Well, I don't know where that's coming from, but I think to me that doesn't feel like a very serious comment. And also, if Cam's kind of a little bit eccentric these days, he's saying a lot of things, so I don't know that I would put a lot of stock in that right now. But it sounds like, as we talked with Clint last week, those of you that missed the crazy Auburn uniforms discussion, we always get those conversations going with him when he's on. So he kind of reiterated that change is probably coming soon for Auburn gear. So we will watch eagerly, and I'm sure we'll be discussing with him. By the way, I want to give you guys a hint, and I hope if Clint sees this, that he's not mad at me. I would very much pay attention tomorrow and this week to Clint Richardson and the Auburn Uniform Database. Some of you may know why. Good things. Just pay attention, especially tomorrow. We will be talking to Clint. The plan is to talk to him, I think. Let me look at my calendar. Yes, we have a live stream scheduled. I should have said that. Our next scheduled live stream will technically be this Tuesday with Clint at 8 p.m. and also the Wednesday night show at 8 p.m. So stick around for that. It's going to be some interesting things going on. Mr. Beautiful says Auburn has the best looking uniforms in college football. Obviously, we think that. But, I always see these. This is the summer. Everybody's just trying to produce whatever content they can, even non-Auburn people. And so they'll do things like who has the best uniforms. And it's always interesting to see who gets picked over Auburn. I'm like, really? That's better? If they put Alabama's uniforms over Auburn, I'm like, okay, you're not even trying. That's the most boring, basic thing that you could ever do for a uniform. Thank you. That's one we should have talked. Jamel, president. He was not mentioned. That's who we should have dedicated this one to. He did not finish his time at Auburn though, so kind of feels a little, It looks like Adidas finally changed their templates. No more sweaters. Yeah. Clint's more researched on that stuff than I am, so I'm not qualified to comment on the lack of sweaters in their templates, but maybe this is bad to say, but I've never been like a big Adidas fan. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just something that's never attracted me to it. I also kind of like bored with Nike, so I'm not looking forward to those probably being the 2 options. I'd like something different, like Under Armour. It doesn't have to be Under Armour. On that topic, any news that AU will go with the Jumpman, Air Jordan, as the uniform supplier? Most likely won't be Nike, as Nike doesn't like to sponsor both sides of a rivalry. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't really give them much. So I think that, unfortunately, will factor into it a little bit, maybe not in a major way, but somewhat. Yeah, we'll see. I don't have any news in that area. I just don't see that happening. I think Clint has said the same too. Let's see. I saw a college football Instagram put Sweet Home Alabama as the best tradition in college football. You talking about when they sing it? Well, that you talking about when Bama sings it? That doesn't even compute. It's not even in the discussion. That's not even a college football tradition. Tiger Walk, like their Walk of Champions thing, is more of a tradition than them singing Sweet Home Alabama. That's pretty boring. that is their considered their tradition. All right, I got time for a few more comments and questions here. We're sitting at about 55 minutes. I'll go back and take a look at some of the older ones, but keep them coming. We'll kind of wind down our time here. You guys were talking a lot about the new YouTube emoji thing. I will have to go and see what that looks like myself. It's interesting. So I'll have to go and look at that. Let's see here. What else did you guys want to talk about? We are getting so much commitments, I can't even keep up. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. WT said he tried to get the E2C spot on the threads, the handle, and make Dustbuster comments. That would have been funny if somebody had pulled that off. All right, I think I hit most of the big ones back there. Tumors was the 7th best tradition in college football in that Instagram post. It feels about right. I'd like to see what they put ahead of Rolling Tumors Corner. I feel like it could be in a top 5 situation because it's so unique. But they better have put War Eagle Flight as the best. There's nothing like. Well, there's Air Force does their Falcon. I think somebody else has another bird of prey that flies. Let's be honest. The Auburn Eagle is the best. Tim Hayes says, I love the home blue, but there could be something on the away. Could be something on the away. You're saying there could be more blue on the away jersey? If that's what you're saying, I'll disagree with you a little bit because I think our whites, all whites, especially, even though I'm not a fan of big change, the white face mask, it makes us look like stormtroopers even more. And I love that. So I like the all whites for the away, especially they get the tall white socks, the those that wear the arm sleeves. Man, looking good. We should call. This is a good one. We should sign Jordan as our new supplier and call it Jordan's. That is the comment of the night. Well played. You have just brought all of the Auburn experience into that. I take away what I said earlier. I love it. Let's do it. Jordan should be. I mean, we have the Jordan Stadium. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fun to tie into all that. Apparently the Instagram thing was made by people who do not follow college football. Yeah, I'm not shocked that people are making content about college football that aren't even like sports or college people because they're needing to draw in another audience, It's really weird. All right, final comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals. Get them in right now. We're about to head out. But if you got one last thing you want to say or ask a question about, do it now or forever hold your peace. We'll be back again. Remember, Tuesday, 8 p.m., we are live streaming with Clint Richardson. Pay attention to him in Auburn Uniform Base tomorrow and the whole week, pretty much, I'm sure. And Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the Auburn Family live stream. And keep in mind, my goal is to have, if not tomorrow, but either Tuesday, between Monday and Wednesday, hopefully you will have those 2 videos for the new commitments where we talk about what it means for the Auburn program at this current time. Those will be coming out. So lots of content, and it's only going to be ramping up now that I'm back from vacation and as we draw closer and closer to the season. The Instagram thing had Dustbuster at number 10. Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate that. And it is, we try our best to give you a variety of things here, and we hope it is enjoyable to all of you. Thank y'all so much for tuning in here, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And we appreciate you guys so much who come to these live streams, who watch on the replay. And we'll be back next week, but also Tuesday and Wednesday this evening. Don't miss it. See you then.